Hi everybody, we're going to today discuss pondering, which involves thinking, obviously, and pondering on everything you've been studying and learning. And it's something that Gurdjieff discusses a lot. You know, I've been doing tiny little shows about various parts of the Gurdjieff work, but one of the important things is to ponder on everything that you're discovering, everything that you're learning, everything that Gurdjieff writes or any of the others write. So let it accumulate in yourself and work itself round so that the answers come to you. Thing is, in everyday life, we're easily distracted, aren't we? Anything to stop us pondering. Like how many times have you sat down and thought, I'm going to think about this problem, solution, find a solution, or think about this philosophy. Within a few minutes, you suddenly find yourself thinking about something else. Completely easily distracted, we are. Crazy. But anyway, I'm going to just start with an all and everything quote. That ordinary cosmic something, which is in general always actualized of itself for every cosmic unit, and which serves for beings with objective reason as what is called an issuing source for pondering about the explanation of the sense and meaning of any given cosmic result. So pondering is like meditating on something. It's a mentation. We're thinking about things. We're trying to analyze it, but not too intellectually. We're trying to let the answers come to us at the same time as our inner being is forming. I was discussing before about how we're harmonizing ourselves and we empty ourselves to nothing so that we can take in all this work and work upon ourselves. Well, if we've got no distractions inside us, then hopefully we are beginning to do that pondering and making sense of what all this is about. Carrying on with another quote from All and Everything. Such a nonsensical literal understanding proceeds in them always owing to the fact that they have entirely ceased to produce in their common presences part dog duty, which should be actualized by being efforts when in their turn alone crystallized data for the capacity of genuine being pondering. And I'll have to do a show on part dog duty because that's a very important part of all this. But what he's saying here is that we need to stop our everyday common actions that we do and instead work upon ourselves, not fall back into old patterns. We want to break our habits, we want to break our patterns and start forming new ones that are more positive towards developing oneself and working on oneself. So carrying on with All and Everything. This system of education has resulted in the gradual loss in people of the capacity to ponder and reflect upon what they are talking about and upon what is being said to them. And most of us find it far easier just to sit and be told what to think and be told what to say and be told what to do. You know, that's sheep for you. That's people that are asleep that want to be told what to do. We want to become the kind of people that want to develop ourselves so that we can think for ourselves and that we know what's right for us and that we will do what we want to do for ourselves. Things can develop wrongly and become like using it to our own advantage, as in our ego takes over instead and we start doing things for egotistic means. Well, hopefully this won't be, if you're doing this work properly, you're doing it for developing yourself and for the better good of all and everything. And we need to know all and everything to develop ourselves. Just going to do a quote from Views from the Real World. If a man knows how to be mercilessly sincere with himself, then to the question, what are you, he will not expect a comforting reply. And part of this pondering, which is quite difficult, is asking yourself the question, who am I? What am I? Why am I here? It's all the who, whys, what's, whys, how's, you know, how did all this come about? How have I ended up as the person I am? And this is what pondering involves, lots of questioning, thought processes, self-observation, which is part of Gurdjieff's teaching of, you know, you're looking at yourself and trying not to be a critic, trying to look at yourself non-partial, being impartial, looking at yourself with a fair eye so that you can see where your dark side is or your light side is, and see where you've been a bit naughty or been a bit well, been good as well. You know, see both sides of yourself. And this is what this pondering's all about, having to really think. It's easy to look at everybody else and see what they're doing and where we think they're going wrong, or elevate them to something grand. But can we do it on ourselves? Can we look at our own ways? So this next bit's from one of C.S. Nott's books. It is necessary to ponder everything that Gurdjieff says to learn and prepare yourself. Question: what is pondering? Raj replies, from one aspect, it is thinking with the thinking part of each centre, mental, emotional, and moving. Mary pondered on all these things in her heart. It means to go over them, weigh them. And that's one of the things that Gurdjieff does say. Don't just believe what he says or anybody says. Go and verify it for yourself. Now, there's some things we cannot verify for ourselves. You know, cosmic scale type of stuff, I suppose. How can we verify if the moon's made of cheese or not, unless we build a little rocket and zoom up there and check it out? But other things we can verify that are more in our everyday world and directly in front of us. So, you know, verify for yourself. Check things out for yourself. Don't sit here and believe everything I say. Think for yourself. Go and do a bit of pondering on what you think is right and what is wrong, what is truthful. So he also goes on about having to think in each part of the centre. And as I was saying to you before, there's the three centres: mental, intellect, emotional, and the moving, physical centre. And in each three of them centres, there is a brain that also you can ponder with. So your moving centre can have a little pondering about itself and why it's doing these movements. And your emotional centre can be pondered upon about why you feel certain ways. So wrong word there. Feel this, feel that, and your thinking, your intellect can look at it from an intellectual point of view. And I know I made a little mistake there of saying thinking how we feel. Many people mistake their emotions for when they should be thinking, and thinking when they should be being emotional. It's quite an interesting another point of looking at yourself. When you're looking at yourself, am I using my thinking centre or am I using my emotional centre about this, whatever it is you're pondering on, or whatever's happening in your life, or what's going on? What centre are you using at that time? Should you be thinking instead of feeling? Should you be feeling instead of thinking? Or have you got the right centre working? So just another piece on pondering. This is from Nott. Purposive thought is thinking with a purpose, with attention. This implies control, not thinking just by association. Control of the lower thinking centre by the higher thinking centre, of the formatory apparatus by I. And that's the other thing with pondering. Hopefully it is thinking with a deeper concentration. And I was saying before in other shows about harmonizing your three centers. Well, once you've done that, hopefully you will start listening to your higher centers. Your higher centers can come down to us, but we need to be open to receive them. We need to be receptive, because them higher centers are the ones that can be reached and actualized once we're harmonious. That they are actualized. They're going all the time, but we're just not listening to them. Understanding is developed not only by pondering, but by handling situations practically as a good gardener manages his garden, says Raj. And that's true, isn't it? We can ponder on things and we can come to many different conclusions about things, but we need to look at them in all ways, in all kinds of associations. When you do your gardening, you're doing your weeding, you're doing your planting your seeds, you're making sure that everything's planted at the right time so that it can harvest at the right time, all the flowers can come up beautiful and pretty at the right time, and that your grass is mowed and looking lovely, but you wouldn't overdo it because otherwise it becomes straggly and torn, and you can leave it for a while and then it gets overgrown and all the weeds come through. So pondering's about how you would manage that garden. I'm going to do one more quote, which was going to be from Not. So this is from Not. As has been said, a man should spend half or at least a third of his life in pondering. Helpdonus stands in relation to the assimilation of foods as pondering stands in relation to impressions. So helpdonus is one of the words from All and Everything, and I'd like to do a show with someone at some point about all these different words in All and Everything. A man must make effort to resolve the struggle between affirmation and denial, or else the impression goes not to essence, but just to his store of information. In other words, pondering is the neutralizing force of thought. Without this, the organism is left with only positive and negative deposits. Pondering is the weighing of ideas. It should include clarity, which I do, I'm sure you're realizing yourself as well that pondering should be done with a clear thought, which is all part of the emptying yourself. If you're doing it when you've got other things on your mind, or you're just doing it willy-nilly, other things will interrupt. You really need to, meditate on when you're pondering. Clear-minded, no distractions, thinking about what it is that needs to be pondered upon, which hopefully is your development. Pondering is the assimilation of the third food, asking after contemplation, what am I? Pondering is thinking with the emotional centre, its thinking sub-centre, which is the seat of essence. This sub-centre is said to be the most highly developed of the sub-centres. Not knowing the Creator's purpose, the meaning and aim of existence, these objective values are matter for pondering. Pondering is an activity proper to being, and that was discussed between Oraj and Not. So pondering, not just about your own life and your own thoughts, but also of the Creator's purpose, because we're trying to assimilate back to the Creator. We're trying to go back to there and to do the Creator's work, or as in Gurdjieff's book it's called his endlessness. What is our purpose? If God's made us all, there must be a purpose to us all. And since God has given us free will, he's given us free reign, God's gone off to do whatever he's, or she's doing in whatever realm they've gone to. They've left us on this planet with free will to do what we want. This is why God never interferes with anything we do, because we've got free will. And if he or she, God, interferes, then it's taken away our free will. So what is our free will about? Something to ponder on. What is our mission? Something to ponder on. And as in many of these videos, I really think that the most important thing in our lives to help us develop is to find God, because nothing else matters.